Today, a long-awaited step forward for passenger rail in Southwest Virginia.
For years, Southwest Virginia has waited for a better connection to the rest of the country. Now the wait is almost over. Amtrak's new River Valley service is officially on the way. But what will it look like? How much will it cost? And why is it such a big deal? In this video, we uncover its full story. If you love staying ahead on major transit updates, and if you want to help us hit our goal of 10,000 subscribers, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe. Let's jump into it. On April 24, 2025, Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin led a groundbreaking ceremony in Christiansburg, Virginia, marking a significant milestone for the new River Valley Rail project. The event, attended by state and local officials, representatives from the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, VPRA, Norfolk Southern, and Amtrak, celebrated the start of construction to extend Amtrak Virginia service from Roanoke to Christiansburg. The new River Valley Rail project, a key component of VPRA's Transforming Rail in Virginia initiative, aims to restore passenger rail service to the region for the first time since 1979. A 2024 agreement with Norfolk Southern, in which the VPRA agreed to buy the state's former Southern Railway line between Alexandria and Manassas, while rescinding an earlier agreement to purchase 28 miles of former Virginia Railway trackage west of Roanoke into the new River Valley. The project involves significant infrastructure upgrades, including a new station platform at the historic Cambria Yard, a layover facility in Radford, new track, an updated signaling system, a parking lot, and access roads. With a total cost of $264.5 million, funded primarily through VPRA with state and federal support, the project is expected to deliver economic and environmental benefits to the region. The service will feature 2 daily round trips between Christiansburg and Washington, D.C., with stops at Roanoke, Lynchburg, Charlottesville, Culpeper, Manassas, Burke Center, and Alexandria, connecting to the Northeast Corridor for travel to Philadelphia, New York, and Boston. Travel times are estimated at 50 minutes to Roanoke and just under 6 hours to Washington, D.C., supported by enhanced rail capacity and signaling for better reliability. Construction began in February 2025 with a groundbreaking ceremony on April 24, 2025, and passenger service is slated to commence in 2027, ahead of the initial 2028 projection. Renovations to the historic Christiansburg station, to be renamed New River Valley Station, will follow in 2027, managed by the New River Valley Passenger Rail Station Authority. The project is expected to significantly benefit the region by improving access for Radford University and Virginia Tech, reducing traffic, and fostering economic growth through enhanced tourism and business opportunities. It aligns with Virginia's vision for expanded rail connectivity, supporting events like America's 250th anniversary celebrations and the FIFA World Cup in 2026, while preserving the historical significance of the Cambria station. Passengers are also showing strong enthusiasm for the new River Valley project. Many expressed their excitement, with one saying, "Glad to see the NRV getting rail." Another shared, "This rail stop looks great to me." A huge percentage of Virginia Tech's student population comes from the DC area. With this strong public support, there's hope that the project will continue to move forward successfully. The push for new River Valley train service gradually increased beginning in 2009, when Amtrak added daily service between Lynchburg and Washington, D.C. on its Northeast Regional line, and continued when service expanded to Roanoke in 2017. Total ridership on Amtrak's Northeast Regional line between Roanoke and Washington was over 343,000 in 2024. And the first 2 months of 2025 both broke records, with more than 27,000 riders in January and another over 23,000 in February. The new River Valley Rail project has also gained overwhelming support from leaders across Virginia, emphasizing the power of collaboration and the importance of expanding passenger rail service. Executive Director of the VPRA praised the partnerships that made the project possible, thanking Governor Glenn Youngkin, Norfolk Southern, and Amtrak for their shared vision. Director of the Department of Rail and Public Transportation celebrated the resurgence of passenger rail, noting Virginia's record-breaking Amtrak ridership and the significance of this extension for the state's future. Senator Tim Kaine, emphasized the project's economic and environmental benefits, reflecting on his long history of supporting rail expansion in Virginia. Congressman Morgan Griffith highlighted the project's potential to create jobs, reduce highway traffic, and strengthen local economies. The local community also feels deeply connected to the project. Christiansburg Mayor Michael Barber, who rode trains from Cambria Station before its closure, looks forward to traveling again soon. He hopes the station's renovation will preserve its mid-20th century charm. However, it seems they have put the extension to Bristol on the back burner. And why is that? The plan to bring passenger rail service to the New River Valley has shifted significantly, raising new concerns about the long-term goal of extending service to Bristol and Southwest Virginia. Originally, officials intended to use the old Virginian Railway route and build a station near the New River Valley Mall. While that would have served the immediate Blacksburg-Christiansburg area well, it would have complicated future westward expansion. Trains would have needed to backtrack to reach Norfolk Southern's main line, creating operational challenges for extending service to Bristol and Tennessee. In response, planners shifted the project to locate the new station directly on Norfolk Southern's main line at the historic Cambria Rail Yard in Christiansburg. This move eliminated the need for a costly $500 million upgrade to the Merrimack Tunnel and saved an estimated $100 million overall. It also provided a more straightforward path for future expansion to Tennessee. However, the change has triggered deep concern among advocates for Bristol. By abandoning plans to rehabilitate the Merrimack Tunnel now, future extension efforts will bear the full weight of those massive costs, making it harder to justify expanding the line past Christiansburg. Some fear this decision could delay, or even kill, hopes of bringing passenger rail back to Bristol for the first time in decades. Beth Reinhardt, a Virginia Passenger Rail Authority member and president of the Bristol Chamber of Commerce, repeatedly urged her colleagues not to take any action that would complicate expansion. State legislators from Southwest Virginia also voiced their alarm. Delegate Terry Austin, a member of the House Transportation Committee, called the shift a major setback. If we don't get on the west side of the tunnel, we don't have a direct connection to get to Bristol. State Senator Todd Pillion added, "This is exactly why Bristol and Southwest Virginia must have a seat at the table. Decisions made now directly impact our future. We must ensure that site selection in the New River Valley supports both regions." Meanwhile, demand for expanded service is clear. Roanoke's ridership has surged from 143,000 in 2021 to 332,000 in 2023, with many riders coming from farther southwest. An advocate from Bristol emphasized, "We know many of those Roanoke numbers are our numbers. People are already driving from our region to catch the train." For now, the plan calls for passenger rail service to reach Christiansburg by 2027, with a temporary platform near Cinnabar Road. A future extension westward could happen by 2030, but only if nearly $1 billion can be secured to complete the work, including the long-delayed Merrimack Tunnel upgrades. In short, while moving to the Norfolk Southern Main Line solves short-term challenges for service to Christiansburg, it has created serious new obstacles for the broader vision of connecting Bristol and Southwest Virginia to the national passenger rail network. What do you think? Should Virginia prioritize expanding rail service to Bristol or focus only on the New River Valley for now? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Subscribe and we will see you next time. A long overdue rail revival is gaining momentum in the heart of the Midwest, with Kansas as the final stop on this transformative route, thanks to a new funding initiative by the state of Kansas. With this funding, there will be additional Midwest and national routes, as well as a once-dormant line finally set to come alive again after more than 4 decades. And for many along the route, it's a long-awaited lifeline coming home. So what's really behind this big move? How can Kansas pull this off? Stick around. We're breaking it all down. Don't forget to hit that bell icon so you never miss a key update from our channel. Let's get into it. In a significant move to expand passenger rail services across the state, Kansas has established a dedicated funding mechanism as part of the 2026 fiscal year budget. The 2026 budget, signed into law by Governor Laura Kelly, includes the creation of a passenger rail service revolving fund. Set to take effect in July 2025, this fund ensures that vital infrastructure and operational needs can be met even as federal rail funding faces uncertainty. Moreover, starting July 1st, 2026, and continuing through July 1st, 2029, the Kansas Secretary of Transportation, in collaboration with the Director of the Budget, will assess the availability of unencumbered funds from the state's general fund, highway fund, and other special revenue funds. From these resources, a total of $5 million will be transferred annually to the Passenger Rail Service Revolving Fund. Specifically last year, the 2024 legislature approved the transfer of $5 million from the State Highway Fund to the Passenger Rail Service Revolving Fund for fiscal year 2025. This funding will be used to provide loans and grants aimed at developing intercity passenger rail services within Kansas. Established in 2010 under KSA 75-5089, the Passenger Rail Service Revolving Fund will support a variety of infrastructure and operational needs. The designated funds will help ensure the continued growth and expansion of passenger rail services, with a particular focus on improving connectivity within Kansas and expanding routes such as the Heartland Flyer and other key Midwest corridors. Thanks to years of advocacy led by SMART-TD, this historic achievement marks a turning point in the state's transportation future. According to Ty Dragoo, Kansas Safety and Legislative Director for SMART-TD, this victory brings the long-envisioned goal of expanded rail access in Kansas one step closer to becoming a reality. The Amtrak Heartland Flyer route expansion, under study since 2001, aims to extend passenger rail service 206 miles from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, to Newton, Kansas, reconnecting communities along the I-35 corridor. This project seeks to restore service discontinued in 1979, linking to Amtrak's Southwest Chief at Newton for broader national network access. Currently in the study phase, the initiative involves the Kansas Department of Transportation KDOT, Oklahoma Department of Transportation ODOT, Amtrak, and BNSF Railway, who have been discussing federal funding and authorization since 2023. The Heartland Flyer currently operates between Fort Worth, Texas, and Oklahoma City, but historically extended into Kansas until financial constraints ended the service. In December 2023, the Federal Railroad Administration awarded a $500,000 corridor identification and development program grant to develop a service development plan, assessing ridership, costs, and infrastructure needs, with completion expected by spring 2024. KDOT leads efforts to secure further funding through the bipartisan infrastructure law, which allocated $66 billion for rail improvements. This isn't just about trains. It's about reconnecting people, towns, and local economies that have been cut off for far too long, said Martin Alvarez, Rail Project Coordinator at KDOT. Restoring this corridor, which has been out of service since 1979, will open up new transportation options and drive real economic growth across rural and urban communities alike. The extension of passenger rail service to Newton, Kansas is a major transportation project that is expected to take about 6 years to complete. The timeline includes key phases such as environmental reviews, early engineering work, final design, construction, and commissioning the system for operation. This project is still in its early stages, but if funding and approvals remain on schedule, service could begin as soon as 2029. To support initial planning, the Kansas Department of Transportation received a $500,000 federal grant in January 2024. The full cost of the project is currently estimated at $311 million, with $175 million allocated for infrastructure improvements in Kansas and $136 million in Oklahoma. However, if they want the tracks to support speeds of up to 79 miles per hour, an investment of over $573 million will be necessary. As of now, no construction contractor has been selected since the project remains in the planning and funding stage. According to the 2023 public meeting, the proposed schedule for the Heartland Flyer extension from Oklahoma City to Newton, Kansas marks an exciting development for regional rail travel. There will be one trip per day, lasting about 3 hours and 30 minutes between Newton and Oklahoma City, and approximately 7 hours and 30 minutes between Newton and Fort Worth, Texas. This extension will connect several key cities along the route, reintroducing vital rail service to communities along the I-35 corridor. The journey will begin at 4:20 a.m. from Newton, Kansas, and travel through various stations, including Wichita, Kansas at 4:42 a.m., Arkansas City, Kansas at 5:46 a.m., and Ponca City, Oklahoma at 6:21 a.m. The train will continue through Perry, Oklahoma, Guthrie, Oklahoma, 7:35 a.m., and Edmond, Oklahoma, 7:54 a.m., reaching its final destination in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma at 8:20 a.m. Each station along the route will offer convenient arrival and departure times to ensure passengers can travel smoothly and efficiently. For instance, the train will arrive in Oklahoma City at 8:20 a.m., allowing for a timely connection to existing services, including the Southwest Chief. The extension will benefit both passengers and the local economy by enhancing regional connectivity and supporting sustainable travel options. According to KDOT, if the service becomes operational by 2029, it is expected to attract 16,000 riders in its first year, with numbers growing to 33,000 within 4 years. The federal government will subsidize operational expenses, gradually transitioning the responsibility to participating states over 6 years. The Heartland Flyer extension offers numerous benefits that will positively impact both the region and its residents. One of the key advantages is the improved multimodal connections it will provide, making it easier for people to travel across cities and connect with other transportation options. The project also supports economic development and community investment, particularly in rural and urban areas that have been cut off from efficient travel routes for decades. Furthermore, the extension is expected to open new tourism opportunities, encouraging visits to local attractions and boosting the local economy. In addition to economic benefits, the extension will contribute to lowering emissions, providing a more sustainable transportation option for travelers. The extension will also cater to a diverse group of prospective users, including college students, an aging population, individuals with disabilities, and low-income households, who will benefit from affordable and accessible travel options. The Heartland Flyer extension represents a transformative step forward in enhancing regional transportation, fostering economic growth, and promoting sustainability. By re-establishing crucial rail connections between Oklahoma City and Newton, Kansas, the project will provide new opportunities for residents and visitors alike, offering affordable, accessible, and eco-friendly travel options. Additionally, Kansas has demonstrated its commitment to expanding passenger rail services through the establishment of a dedicated funding mechanism in the 2026 fiscal year budget. This Passenger Rail Service Revolving Fund, set to take effect in July 2025, will ensure the sustainability of rail projects like the Heartland Flyer extension, even as federal funding faces uncertainty. As the project progresses toward its expected completion in 2029, the Heartland Flyer, bolstered by new funding initiatives, will serve as a vital resource for riders from diverse backgrounds, ensuring the continued development and success of the region for years to come. Thanks for riding with us on today's story. See you next time.
The train station in downtown Moline is empty. It's been that way for years, waiting for the project that seems a lifetime away.
Is the Quad Cities finally getting back on track? Literally? After years of promises, stalled progress, and political limbo, whispers of Amtrak's long-delayed return to the region are growing louder. A direct line to Chicago could transform local travel and economic prospects. But the battle's still looming. The question remains: is this the moment the Quad Cities boards the train to the future? Or just another stop in a decades-long journey to nowhere? Today, we'll be discussing the challenges this project has faced, along with some recent positive developments. For over a decade, the idea of restoring Amtrak passenger rail service from Chicago to Moline, Illinois, has captured the attention of residents, local leaders, and transportation advocates. Promising improved regional connectivity, economic growth, and a viable alternative to the 55-minute drive to the nearest Amtrak station in Galesburg, the project has received substantial funding and bipartisan political support. However, the service remains stalled, caught in prolonged negotiations with the Iowa Interstate Railroad, IAIS, and facing unresolved funding challenges. The proposed route covers 162 miles, featuring 8 stops, including a confirmed station in Geneseo. It will follow BNSF tracks from Chicago to Wyanett, then transition to Iowa Interstate Railroad tracks from Wyanett to Moline. Amtrak plans to operate 2 daily round-trip trains. Financial support has been significant, with over $600 million secured through federal and state sources, including a $230 million federal award in 2010, a $177 million grant in 2011, and $225 million from Illinois in 2019 under Governor Pritzker. These funds have supported infrastructure upgrades and planning, with early projections estimating 165,600 annual riders. Despite early enthusiasm and milestones, such as the completion of the Moline Intermodal Station in 2018, the service remains delayed. Originally slated to launch as early as 2015 and later rescheduled for fiscal year 2024, the service is now tentatively projected to begin by 2027, though that timeline remains uncertain. So what happened? One of the most significant obstacles standing in the way of launching Amtrak service to the Quad Cities is the ongoing impasse between the Iowa Interstate Railroad and the Illinois Department of Transportation, IDOT. IAIS owns the crucial 50-mile stretch of track between Wyanett and Moline, the final leg of the proposed route. And without access and upgrades to this segment, the project cannot move forward. Negotiations between IAIS and IDOT have repeatedly broken down over disagreements concerning the scale, scope, and most notably, the cost of the infrastructure improvements required to accommodate passenger service. The root of the conflict lies in the condition of the existing infrastructure, particularly the aging Rock River Bridge near Moline. The bridge, a relic of the Rock Island Railroad era, is severely deteriorated, described by officials as crumbling and held together by chains, raising serious safety concerns for both freight and future passenger services. Replacing the bridge, along with other necessary upgrades on the Wyanett-Moline segment, would cost over $800 million. Understandably, IAIS was reluctant to proceed without a clear financial plan that would cover these enormous costs, protect their freight operations, and minimize their liability exposure. In addition to concerns over funding, IAIS also faced a lack of immediate incentives. Passenger rail, while beneficial to the public, does not directly generate revenue for freight railroads, making cooperation less appealing without guaranteed federal or state support. Although over $600 million had been secured through state and federal grants, significant gaps remained, particularly with $177 million in federal funds from 2010 at risk of expiration by the end of 2024. This funding, partially used for equipment procurement, is critical to the project's viability. In a bipartisan effort, Illinois lawmakers have appealed to former Transportation Secretary for an extension in the late 2024. This wasn't the first time an extension for funding was requested. Fortunately, it was approved through summer 2026. Even back in 2019, when $225 million was secured, the process sparked controversy, particularly because it involved doubling the gas tax, which upset many people. When it was revealed that the price increase was tied to funding Amtrak service, these were some of the reactions.
I have to see it to believe it.
Can I laugh and that be the answer?
The recent extension of federal funding until summer 2026 gave new life to the long-delayed Chicago Quad Cities passenger rail project, but it also added intense pressure to move quickly. With limited time remaining to use the $177 million in federal funds, officials are now weighing alternative routes that might expedite the project's completion. According to Moline Mayor, the Illinois Department of Transportation has laid out 3 potential routes now under consideration. A direct route from Chicago to the Quad Cities via Wyanett on IAIS tracks, which is the original plan. A new route from Chicago to Galesburg to Kelowna to the Quad Cities using BNSF railway lines. And finally, another alternative from Chicago to Galesburg to Barstow to the Quad Cities, also along BNSF tracks. While exploring alternative routes along BNSF, tracks could help expedite the Chicago Quad Cities passenger rail project. Shifting away from the original plan carries significant downsides, especially for communities like Geneseo, which have spent years preparing for service. Since the project's early days nearly 15 years ago, Geneseo has made substantial investments to become a key stop on the Chicago to Moline line. The city cleared land, closed intersections, and acquired property in 2017 to build a downtown rail depot, positioning itself as a ready-made hub for future rail passengers. Local leaders have stressed that the city is shovel-ready and that losing the rail stop would be a major blow not just to Geneseo, but to the broader regional economy. Switching to an alternate route, one that would bypass Geneseo entirely by running from Chicago to Galesburg before reaching Moline, risks wasting years of careful planning, public investment, and infrastructure work. City administrator also warned that a route change could introduce new costs and delays, undermining the very goal of accelerating the project before the critical summer 2026 federal funding deadline. For Geneseo, the stakes are high. If the original route is abandoned, the city could lose out on long-promised economic development opportunities, and the vision that local leaders and residents have worked toward for more than a decade could be left unrealized. Though it once seemed forgotten, the project has recently resurfaced in public discussions. Officials from Moline and the state of Illinois continue to express strong interest, and the Rock Island County Board has reaffirmed its commitment to the long-anticipated passenger rail line. And now, there are signs of progress. In 2024, IAIS was awarded nearly $29.9 million through the fiscal year 2023 to 2024 Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Grant Program. This funding supports the replacement of 4 critical bridges, including the Rock River Bridge and Atkinson Bridge in Illinois, both of which are essential to the success of the future Chicago-Moline Amtrak service. This development marks a significant step forward, demonstrating that IAIS is now more actively engaged in preparing its network for future passenger rail service. However, while infrastructure improvements are now moving forward, another major hurdle remains: negotiating operating agreements between Amtrak and IAIS, particularly around scheduling and track priority. Freight trains, which are the primary business of IAIS, are expected to maintain operational priority. Without firm agreements in place, there are widespread concerns that Amtrak trains could face frequent delays, as freight movements could take precedence along the shared corridor. For Quad Cityans, the wait for passenger rail is a test of patience, with the service's transformative potential tantalizingly out of reach. So where does that leave us? Will the Quad Cities finally see its long-promised rail connection become a reality? Or will it remain yet another example of broken infrastructure dreams? And with the 2024 election behind us, could Trump-era or future Trump policies impact the project's federal funding? What do you think? Is this revival finally within reach, or just more smoke and steam? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. A new passenger rail service connecting Ronkonkoma and New York could be on the horizon. Amtrak has announced plans to extend its service to Ronkonkoma, with work expected to begin in 2026. This will allow for a seamless one-seat ride from Long Island to Manhattan. But what does it take to turn this proposal into reality? Let's find out the opportunities and challenges and what this could mean for the future of railroads in the U.S. Before we start, we'd love your support. This is our brand new railway channel, and we're aiming to hit our 3,000 subscribers landmark. If you're passionate about rail infrastructure and transit updates, consider subscribing to stay in the loop. Your support makes us better. Thank you so much. As of 2025, Amtrak's planned expansion to Ronkonkoma is in its early planning and feasibility stages, with efforts backed by a $500,000 grant from the Federal Railroad Administration. The new route will include stops at Hicksville and Jamaica, providing direct connections to the Northeast Corridor, and Amtrak plans to offer 3 daily round-trip services designed to serve both commuters and long-distance travelers, contributing significantly enhanced travel options and creating a more frequent, smooth link between local commuter rail and intercity services. Currently, feasibility studies, environmental assessments, and preliminary engineering work are underway to explore how the new Amtrak Aero trains can be integrated into the LIRR network. These studies are focused on the necessary upgrades to tracks, stations, and signals to accommodate the new service. Construction is slated to begin in 2026, with phased improvements planned for Ronkonkoma Station, including platform extensions and signal upgrades to accommodate intercity service. Coordination with the MTA and local agencies will be crucial to minimize disruptions to existing Long Island Railroad operations. If all goes as planned, Amtrak service could launch by 2028, offering direct access to the Northeast Corridor from Ronkonkoma to several major cities, eliminating the need for passengers to transfer at Penn Station. This would enhance convenience for Long Island travelers and contribute to regional economic growth. The expansion is part of the Corridor Identification and Development Program, which aims to enhance intercity rail across the nation. Although the exact cost of the project has not been finalized, Amtrak officials stated that it is anticipated to be much more affordable than other railroad projects nationwide that involve laying new tracks, as this one will only involve adjustments to the existing system. The project is expected to be funded through federal and state infrastructure funds, including support from the bipartisan infrastructure law. Officials view this project as an opportunity to modernize Long Island's transit network and promote sustainable transportation. Amtrak's extension of its Northeast Regional with Ronkonkoma as a key terminus will offer a more convenient route, and the station's proximity to Long Island MacArthur Airport makes it an ideal location for this expansion, providing a multimodal connection for travelers. Amtrak's ambitious expansion onto Long Island represents a transformative step for regional transportation when they cooperate with MTA. One of the focal points of this project is Ronkonkoma Station, a major hub that serves over 17,000 weekday passengers. To support Amtrak's new services, the station will be revamped with new platforms, additional tracks, expanded waiting areas, and modernized ticketing facilities. Accessibility upgrades, including ADA-compliant ramps, elevators, and updated signage, will ensure convenience for all travelers. Further west, Hicksville, another critical node handling approximately 22,000 daily commuters, according to MTA statistics, will also see significant improvements tailored to Amtrak's needs. The station's platforms will be extended to accommodate longer Amtrak train sets, such as the forthcoming Aero train sets, which boast a capacity of up to 300 passengers per train. Concourse upgrades will facilitate smoother passenger movement, alleviating bottlenecks during peak travel times. Meanwhile, Jamaica Station, a bustling interchange serving over 200,000 passengers daily. Amtrak and subway lines, track reconfigurations, and new platform construction will optimize transfers between Amtrak and MTA services. This overhaul aims to reduce transfer times, which currently average 5 to 10 minutes during peak hours, and minimize delays that have long plagued this congested hub. The economic impact of this project holds great promise, offering a significant boost to the region's prosperity. According to a 2021 study by Amtrak, expanding services in the area could generate up to $44 million annually in economic activity. This is in line with broader findings on the benefits of enhanced transit access, which is widely recognized as a key driver of economic growth. The American Public Transportation Association, APTA, reports that every $1 billion invested in public transit infrastructure creates approximately 50,000 jobs. Improved connectivity at key stations like Ronkonkoma, Hicksville, and Jamaica is expected to attract new businesses to these areas, while rising property values could stimulate residential development. For example, Hicksville's $130 million downtown revitalization project is poised to benefit from the transit-oriented development opportunities that improved rail service would bring. Beyond the direct economic benefits, the enhanced connectivity is also set to invigorate tourism. Longwoods International's 2023 Travel USA Visitor Profiles report reveals that Long Island attracts 41.8 million visitors annually. Suffolk County, in particular, saw the highest growth in tourism spending in 2023, with a notable 15.6% increase over the previous year. Moreover, improved rail access is expected to further increase property values in Ronkonkoma and its surrounding areas by 10 to 20%, according to APTA studies. This rise in property value, along with the increased convenience for commuters, will attract businesses to well-connected locations and offer residents more accessible travel options, further enhancing the region's economic vitality. To support this expansion along the LIRR main line, Amtrak is undertaking significant track and signal upgrades to ensure efficient joint operations with LIRR's fleet. The Federal Railroad Administration, FRA, notes that such improvements can reduce delays by up to 20% on heavily trafficked corridors, particularly the Long Island Expressway, I-495, where peak hour delays cost commuters an estimated 50 hours annually, per a 2023 NRIX traffic study. The Aero train sets, which offer dual-mode capabilities and top speeds of 125 miles per hour, ensure compatibility with Long Island's diverse rail infrastructure. These upgrades will enhance safety and connectivity while supporting the region's economic growth by improving transportation infrastructure and offering a vastly improved travel experience. With a capacity of over 300 passengers, these trains are designed to meet the high demand on the Ronkonkoma route, ensuring a pleasant journey for both short-haul commuters and long-distance travelers. On the environmental front, the introduction of Amtrak's new Aero train sets marks a significant stride toward sustainability. These state-of-the-art trains, set to debut across Amtrak's network by 2026, can switch between electric and diesel power, utilizing electrified tracks along much of the Northeast Corridor to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. According to Amtrak, the Aero fleet is expected to cut emissions by up to 30% compared to traditional diesel-only locomotives. On Long Island, where the Lear's Ronkonkoma branch is not yet fully electrified, the trains will rely on diesel for portions of the route, but their efficiency will still outpace older models. The expansion of Amtrak service to Ronkonkoma has received strong support from residents and leaders who see it as a major improvement in regional connectivity. However, there are concerns. Some residents worry about construction disruptions, such as noise and traffic impacts, as well as the environmental effects during the building phase. There are also questions about ticket pricing, with commuters concerned that fares could be higher than existing LIRR services, affecting affordability for regular riders. Despite these challenges, the overall sentiment remains optimistic. Stakeholders believe the long-term benefits, including improved connectivity, economic growth, and reduced congestion, will outweigh the short-term disruptions, making this project a positive step for Long Island's transportation infrastructure. What are your thoughts on the new Amtrak train in Ronkonkoma? Share them in the comments below. Thanks for tuning in today. See you next time. In an era where billions of federal dollars have fueled a renaissance of passenger rail across the United States, Utah stands curiously on the sidelines. By early 2025, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act promised a new era of connectivity, yet Utah secured a small amount of the $28 billion awarded, ranking it among the lowest recipients nationwide. While Amtrak's California Zephyr chugs through the state, new routes remain a distant dream. What went wrong? Let's break it down in today's episode. Amtrak operates a network of intercity passenger rail services across the United States, including the California Zephyr, which traverses Utah with stops in Green River, Helper, Provo, and Salt Lake City. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, signed into law in November 2021, allocated $66 billion over 5 years for intercity passenger and freight rail, aiming to modernize and expand services. This funding included programs like the Corridor Identification and Development Program, the Federal State Partnership for Intercity Passenger Rail Grant Program, and the Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program, offering states opportunities for capital improvements at an 80% federal match. Despite these opportunities, Utah ranked 48th in both total award amount and per capita funding, receiving only $12.5 million by early 2025 when a funding freeze was implemented under the Trump administration. This contrasts sharply with states like California and New York, which secured significant grants for rail projects. Hawaii and Rhode Island tied for last with no direct funding, but Utah stands out. It is number 30 in terms of population and was the state with the highest growth rate in the nation between 2010 and 2020, adding the equivalent of 2.5 Salt Lake cities, and it's still growing. The $12.5 million that Utah was able to receive consisted of funding across 3 key projects. In Bluffdale, a $3.2 million grant will help build a safe, ADA-compliant overpass over Union Pacific and Frontrunner tracks. cutting out a frustrating 2.5-mile detour for local families just trying to get to school or nearby neighborhoods. Meanwhile, in Ogden, UDOT secured $1.8 million to kick off planning for a major safety upgrade, replacing an at-grade rail crossing on 12th Street with a safer, grade-separated alternative. But the biggest impact may come in Utah County, where a $7.5 million grant will help consolidate 2 busy rail corridors into one streamlined route. This bold project will eliminate 19 dangerous crossings, retire 7 miles of outdated track through Spanish Fork and Springville, and modernize 10 more crossings, all part of a broader I-15 interchange improvement. With each grant requiring a 20% state match, Utah is showing it's ready to invest in safer, smarter rail infrastructure for the future. Utah's failure to secure more federal rail funding could stem from a combination of missed opportunities, distracted priorities, and structural roadblocks within the state's transportation system. Unlike neighboring states that pursued funding aggressively, Utah made relatively limited efforts to apply for available grants. For example, Utah submitted only a handful of proposals, most notably for passenger rail routes connecting Salt Lake City to Boise and Las Vegas, which were ultimately rejected. A key reason for this inaction may lie in Utah's recent enthusiasm for futuristic transportation technologies, such as air taxis and drone delivery systems. While innovation is important, state leaders appeared overly focused on these speculative projects, as highlighted in news reports discussing Utah's commitment to building an advanced air mobility system. This forward-thinking mindset, while visionary, may have inadvertently shifted attention and resources away from more established and immediately fundable transportation modes like passenger rail, which continues to enjoy strong federal support. Governance issues have further complicated Utah's ability to make a strong case for rail investment. The Utah Department of Transportation, UDOT, is not traditionally responsible for managing statewide public transit. That responsibility falls to regional entities like the Utah Transit Authority, which focuses mainly on urban service areas. This fragmented structure has left no clear champion for intercity or regional rail, making it difficult to coordinate applications or long-term planning. While advocacy groups like the Utah Rail Passengers Association, led by figures such as Mike Christensen, have raised awareness and pushed for action, their efforts have lacked the institutional backing needed to secure significant funding. To make matters worse, a federal funding freeze implemented under the Trump administration in early 2025 brought several key programs, like the Regional Infrastructure Accelerators and Reconnecting Communities pilot grants, to a halt. This cut off Utah's ability to reapply for previously denied grants or submit new proposals, just as momentum was beginning to build. Ultimately, Utah's underperformance in capturing federal rail funding reflects a broader need for strategic focus, stronger leadership, and a more unified approach to transportation planning across state agencies and regional partners. Utah's inability to secure significant rail funding has had far-reaching consequences, particularly for rural communities and long-term transportation planning. This funding gap also forces Utah to lean heavily on its highway system, which comes with serious environmental and social costs. As Salt Lake City struggles with air quality issues, the continued expansion of highways only worsens congestion, air pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions. Public feedback on the I-15 expansion project has highlighted these concerns, with residents warning of rising noise levels and increased exposure to harmful pollutants. Originally projected at $1.7 billion, the I-15 project's budget has ballooned to $3.7 billion, further raising alarms. In many cases, these expansions displace homes and businesses, disproportionately affecting low-income and minority communities, repeating the harmful legacy of past urban planning decisions. The lack of federal support also means Utah has missed out on developing new Amtrak routes or conducting feasibility studies for high-speed rail. One key flashpoint was the failure to secure a $500,000 federal grant for a proposed passenger rail study connecting Salt Lake City to Boise and Las Vegas. The grant opportunity was lost due to an application error by Idaho's Department of Transportation, but Utah residents questioned why the state hadn't done more to lead or partner in the effort. On Reddit, comments like, "Thanks Utah politics," and "They do not serve the public, they serve the party and themselves," captured the general mood. disappointment, skepticism, and a growing demand for accountability. This public discourse reflects more than just frustration. It reveals a strong undercurrent of support for passenger rail and a growing call for Utah to invest in a more forward-thinking, community-focused transportation future. However, hope for Utah's rail future hasn't completely faded. Just recently, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy visited Utah and took a ride on the Frontrunner to see the system firsthand. During his visit, he expressed support for transit projects like Frontrunner, emphasizing that smart, clean, and efficient rail systems are worth federal investment, especially as Utah prepares to co-host the 2034 Winter Olympics. While no official funding commitment was made during the visit, Duffy acknowledged Utah's approach as a potential model for other states and seemed encouraged by the state's planning efforts. This comes at a time when the change in federal administration and major budget cuts have put previously proposed funding, including nearly $317 million under the Biden administration, into question. Still, state leaders remain optimistic. Utah has already committed $300 million to the Frontrunner double tracking project, and agencies like UDOT and UTA are continuing with engineering and planning work. They intend to apply for a federal capital investment grant later this year. As the UDOT director put it, "Am I worried about it? I'm always worried until the money's in my wallet, but I'm pretty confident we're going to be successful." So, what do you think about the effort of state leaders? Should they recognize the importance of rail expansion in Utah's future growth? Drop your thoughts below. We read every comment and will feature some of your takes in a future video. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Subscribe and we will see you next time.
Musk, who thinks America's rail system is embarrassing compared to other countries.
Amtrak is really in big trouble, and the warning signs are getting harder to ignore. In May, the company announced massive layoffs that shocked employees, passengers, and transit experts across the country. But is this just a short-term crisis, or a sign of deeper issues within America's iconic passenger rail system? What's happening at Amtrak? How are the impacts of the layoffs, and why does it all point to a bigger problem for the future of U.S. rail travel? Let's find out in today's episode of Great Train Speed. In early May 2025, Amtrak announced it would eliminate approximately 450 positions as part of a major cost-saving initiative aimed at reducing expenses by $100 million annually. The cuts were framed as a cost review to help the company better align its resources with ongoing priorities, especially amid uncertainty over future federal funding. About 250 current employees, primarily office and management staff, were notified their roles were being eliminated. These were mostly white-collar positions, not frontline workers like train crews or service personnel. In addition, around 200 vacant positions that had been open for recruitment were also canceled, contributing to the total reduction. The layoffs primarily affected administrative and capital project departments, including teams responsible for procurement and infrastructure delivery. According to internal communications, Amtrak's leadership described the move as a workforce adjustment focused on streamlining management layers. President Roger Harris emphasized that affected employees would be treated with dignity and care and provided with resources to support their transition. So why did Amtrak take this drastic step? Amtrak's financial challenges have continued despite a post-pandemic surge in ridership. In fiscal year 2024, the company recorded a record 32.8 million passenger trips, surpassing pre-COVID levels and marking a 15% year-over-year increase. Still, it reported a $705 million operating loss that year, though that was an improvement over fiscal year 2023. The railroad remains heavily dependent on federal subsidies, receiving approximately $2.42 billion in fiscal year 2025. Leadership cited uncertainty around future congressional support as a key reason for acting preemptively to reduce spending. While the 2021 Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act allocated $66 billion for rail, including $22 billion for Amtrak capital projects over 5 years, these funds are largely restricted to infrastructure development. They do not cover operating expenses, which have forced Amtrak to make tough internal budget decisions. The layoffs also reflect the shifting political landscape. Since January 2025, the new administration has prioritized cutting government spending. In early 2025, President Trump issued an executive order permitting large-scale reductions in the federal workforce, though it was temporarily blocked by a federal judge. Meanwhile, prominent voices in government, including advisors, have publicly advocated for privatizing Amtrak, intensifying pressure on the railroad's leadership and long-term planning. After pressure from Washington, Amtrak's CEO resigned in March 2025, leaving President Harris as acting head. With Congress actively debating the fiscal year 2026 surface transportation reauthorization, the company's future operating budget remains uncertain, even as demand for passenger rail continues to rise.
CEO of Amtrak has abruptly resigned. Reuters reports that the White House had asked Stephen Gardner to step down.
Amtrak confirmed that all current routes will remain active for now, and no service cuts have been announced. For example, the Empire Builder, a long-distance route connecting Chicago with the West Coast via North Dakota and Montana, will continue unaffected. However, there are growing concerns that the reduction in staff, especially in procurement and capital delivery teams, could hinder the company's ability to manage infrastructure upgrades funded by the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. High-profile projects, such as the replacement of tunnels and bridges in major transportation hubs like New York City and Baltimore, may face delays due to a reduced pool of experienced project managers and engineers. Online, discussions among Amtrak employees also reflect fears that expansion and maintenance work will slow, increasing long-term costs and reducing service reliability. The layoffs affect a significant portion of Amtrak's management team, with many impacted employees being in their 50s and 60s. As a federally owned entity, Amtrak must comply with collective bargaining rules, and laid-off staff are offered transition support and resources. However, internal morale has taken a hit. Reports indicate that some employees were informed of their termination while attending federal advisory meetings, leading to abrupt departures and confusion. On online forums, employees voiced frustration with the lack of clear communication from leadership, sharing concerns about increased workloads, job insecurity, and impacts on future benefits. So what is the reaction from the public? Rail advocacy groups, notably the Rail Passengers Association, have strongly criticized the layoffs. They argue that Amtrak is jeopardizing billions in federal infrastructure funding by cutting the very staff needed to execute those projects. President Jim Matthews called the timing foolish and warned that Congress never mandated Amtrak to achieve profitability at the cost of expansion. The association called on Amtrak to provide a transparent and detailed explanation of the departments affected and the expected impact on federal project delivery. The broader rail industry and media also expressed skepticism. With ridership and revenue at historic highs, many question the timing and strategy behind reducing staff. Industry observers argue that such cuts during a major build-out phase could backfire and reduce Amtrak's capacity to manage its growing network. Publications echoed concerns that trimming expert personnel amid large-scale investment may compromise project outcomes. Reactions from unions and political figures have been mixed. Some labor unions representing federal employees, including Amtrak managers, have voiced concern and may pursue grievances. Although immediate union statements were limited, past patterns suggest organized labor will closely monitor the fallout. Politically, Republicans have generally supported the cost-cutting initiative, viewing it as a proactive step, while Democrats expressed concern about Amtrak's ability to fulfill its infrastructure responsibilities. Additional political context has emerged. Reports link the recent shifts in Amtrak leadership, including the forced resignation of CEO Stephen Gardner, and broader privatization advocacy from figures like Elon Musk to ongoing federal budget debates. A memo from Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy directing agencies to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI activities, also highlights how current administrative priorities may be reshaping federal transportation policy. Despite these developments, no major congressional committee has released a formal statement on the May 2025 layoffs. Among the general public and rail enthusiasts, reactions range from disappointment to resignation. While some understand the financial pressures Amtrak faces, Others are frustrated that cuts are happening amid record usage and government investment in rail. Online forums and social media have reflected a cautious but critical tone, with employees and passengers alike expressing concern that service reliability and modernization goals may suffer. While the layoffs are still in ongoing trouble, Amtrak is also facing another problem with its employees. But before we begin, if you're curious about what's going on with Amtrak and beyond, hit that subscribe button. We're building a little community of rail fans here, and we'd love to have you on board. We're aiming for 10,000 subscribers, so every click helps. Thank you. Amtrak is facing the fallout of the largest employee fraud conspiracy in its history, according to a bombshell report from Amtrak's Office of Inspector General, OIG. At least 119 employees worked with New York healthcare providers to scam the company's health plan out of over $12 million between 2019 and 2022. These employees, located across the Northeast, including New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and D.C., accepted cash kickbacks in exchange for their insurance information. Providers then used that data to submit false claims for services never rendered, sometimes even involving family members' information. As the investigation deepened, 28 employees resigned or retired, 30 left for unrelated reasons, and 12 were criminally charged. 7 have already pleaded guilty. 61 employees remain under review for possible disciplinary action. The scheme unraveled when OIG analysts spotted suspicious billing patterns. Undercover agents later caught the provider. This person has now been sentenced and owes $9 million in restitution. Other key players include had helped recruit employees and threatened providers, also recently pleaded guilty. Amtrak had previously been warned. Reports in 2018 and 2019 flagged fraud risks, yet some recommendations weren't fully implemented. Now, the OIG is urging the company to ramp up fraud detection, employee training, and oversight. So what do you think about this whole ordeal? Can it really solve the financial difficulties, or will it make the situation even worse? Feel free to drop your ideas in the comment below. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Subscribe, and we will see you next time. Bangor is a regional powerhouse with a diverse economy and the cultural mark of Stephen King. Yet it faces modern transportation challenges. Just south, Orono is a quieter college town centered on the University of Maine. The Downeaster is preparing its biggest expansion yet, set to connect these two key centers. This bold initiative is set to transform mobility, ignite economic progress, and drive Maine's journey toward a cleaner, more sustainable transportation future. So, what exactly is this plan? Why can this expansion be considered a good plan for Amtrak? How can it bring so many benefits to the region?
The Amtrak Downeaster up to Bangor puts the state of Maine on the right track.
The Amtrak Downeaster, a vital rail service connecting Boston to Brunswick, currently operates 5 daily round-trip trains along its 145-mile route. Along the way, it serves key stops in popular destinations such as Portland, Freeport, and Old Orchard Beach, offering passengers a variety of amenities, including a cafe car, free Wi-Fi, and business class options. The Downeaster has experienced impressive growth in 2025, carrying 44,131 passengers, an increase compared to January at 39,431 passengers. However, despite its success, the Downeaster is still not directly connected to other regions, especially Bangor, which was last provided by the Flying Yankee trains until 1961. But now, a major opportunity is on the horizon. The proposed expansion of the Downeaster aims to extend the route from Brunswick to Bangor and Orono, with new stops planned for Lewiston, Winthrop, Waterville, Pittsfield, Bangor, and Orono. With an estimated cost between $628 million and $900 million, this expansion is not just about adding new stops. It's about creating a seamless, efficient transportation network that will improve connectivity, support economic growth, and make travel easier and more sustainable for the people of Maine. This is a game-changing opportunity that will unlock new potential for the region, enhance tourism, and strengthen communities along the way. So, Why is this expansion crucial for Amtrak's future growth, sustainability, and network connectivity? Let's dive into the next part, but first don't forget to subscribe and stay updated with our latest content. The proposed expansion of the Downeaster rail service stands to bring immense economic benefits to Maine, with particularly strong positive impacts on the state's underserved rural regions. By operating twice daily, this extension will dramatically improve connectivity across the state, revitalizing the historic Maine Central Railroad main line, which once connected passengers to the heart of Maine but ceased passenger service in the mid-20th century. This proposed expansion is more than just a transportation project. It's an economic catalyst that will unlock a wealth of opportunities for communities all along the route. A comprehensive study conducted by the Rail Passengers Association, commissioned by the Maine Rail Group and Train Writers Northeast, estimates that this expansion could generate nearly $62 million annually in economic benefits. Key components of this economic boost include increased visitor spending, which is expected to contribute $15.5 million each year. This influx of new visitors will not only drive business to local hotels, restaurants, and attractions, but also support 191 new jobs in various sectors, from hospitality to transportation, reinforcing Maine's economic foundation. The savings for passengers are equally significant, with an estimated $12 million in annual savings compared to other travel modes. This affordability and convenience will make rail travel a more accessible, sustainable option for both residents and tourists, and will position the Downeaster as an essential part of Maine's transportation landscape. Rail service offers a cost-effective and environmentally friendly alternative to driving, making it an increasingly important component of the state's infrastructure. But the economic impact doesn't stop there. The expansion of the Downeaster will also contribute to $10 million in annual savings for Maine municipalities by significantly reducing road maintenance costs. Fewer cars on the road means less wear and tear on infrastructure, which eases the financial burden on local governments and allows those funds to be used for other crucial public needs. The state will also benefit from $2.4 million in new state and local tax revenue, further bolstering public coffers and supporting future investments in Maine's growth. The environmental benefits tied to this expansion are also substantial. With 5.9 million vehicle miles expected to be removed from Maine's roads each year, the project will ease congestion on major highways, reduce traffic-related pollution, and decrease carbon emissions, helping the state move toward its sustainability goals. The expansion promises to be a major step in greening Maine's transportation infrastructure, making it a critical player in the fight against climate change. In addition to these long-term benefits, the construction phase alone is projected to generate a one-time boost of $11.2 million, primarily driven by the development of new station facilities and other related infrastructure. This influx of funds will stimulate the economy during the construction period, creating jobs and providing a short-term economic boost that will pay off in the form of long-term regional growth. And government showed a positive perspective on this project. Even though the Downeaster expansion project has several benefits, it continues to face strong challenges. So, what exactly are the challenges holding it back despite this widespread backing? With all the information we've just discussed, do you think the extension for this rail line is truly good? Comment 1 if you say yes and 0 if you want to say no. Despite facing legislative challenges, the proposed Downeaster expansion continues to receive strong and widespread support from the community and key stakeholders, inspiring important discussions and renewed efforts toward progress. On April 24, 2025, the Maine Legislature's Transportation Committee voted 9-1 against LD 487, a bill that would have directed NNEPRA to seek at least $500,000 in federal funding to develop a passenger service proposal between Portland and Orono. While the committee recommended that the bill ought not to pass, citing concerns over cost, ridership, and uncertain funding under the current federal administration, this decision reflects the complexities involved rather than a final setback. This follows a similar attempt the previous year, highlighting ongoing debate, but also sustained interest in finding viable solutions. Opponents, such as Maine Department of Transportation, raise valid concerns about service speed, ridership levels, and high estimated costs ranging from almost $1 million. Ridership projections from the Maine Department of Transportation's 2023 study estimate 5,150 to 7,250 monthly riders for the expansion, on top of the current average of 47,500 monthly riders north of Portland. Supporters such as Jim Matthews, President and CEO of the Rail Passengers Association, emphasize that the expansion will enable more travel opportunities within Maine, assist college students commuting to the University of Maine in Orono, and attract new visitors. Organizations like Train Riders Northeast continue to champion the project. While critics raise valid concerns about costs, projected ridership, and service feasibility, these challenges have sparked important conversations that help refine and strengthen the plan. As of May 22, 2025, the Downeaster expansion remains under active discussion, though Amtrak itself has yet to issue an official statement regarding the proposal. The Amtrak Downeaster website currently highlights existing services and upcoming track maintenance projects, but does not reference the proposed extension to Bangor and Orono. Despite this, recent advocacy efforts and detailed reports indicate that the conversation is ongoing, with supporters poised to continue seeking federal funding and legislative backing in future sessions. While the rejection of £487 represents a setback, it does not close the door on future proposals, especially given the strong economic benefits highlighted in studies that may sway policymakers over time. Alternative solutions, such as expanding bus services at a fraction of the cost, approximately $2 million, have also been explored. However, these options are widely viewed as less comprehensive than the potential benefits offered by rail expansion. The future of the Downeaster extension remains promising, with continued dialogue and advocacy keeping the vision alive. The Downeaster expansion, despite facing challenges, continues to gain strong support from community groups, advocates, and environmental organizations. The proposed extension promises significant benefits, including economic growth, improved mobility, and environmental sustainability. While concerns over costs and ridership remain, the ongoing dialogue and collaboration show a shared commitment to overcoming obstacles. With continued advocacy and strategic planning, the expansion offers a promising future for Maine's transportation, economy, and communities, making it a crucial step toward a more connected and sustainable state. Thanks for riding with us today. Subscribe and see you on the next great train speed stop.